Welcome back to the channel. Today is going to be an update on a video that I made about 9 months ago lowering my 2011 Chevy Equinox. So if you look through the description or if you look through the comments, you'll see in there I mentioned the rear springs seem to be a little loose or a little soft. So finally I am changing out my OEM shocks for these KYB Gas-a-Just. It's a monotube design and it's supposed to be a little stiffer and a little bit more reactive. So this video is really kind of an update on the lowering of the Equinox, as well as how to install rear shocks on a second generation Chevy Equinox. I've already jacked the car up and we are ready to take the rear wheel off. And this vehicle uses a 7/8 socket. If you're using the socket and the breaker bar, what you're going to want to do is break these loose and then jack the car up and then take the lug nuts off. I've already got it jacked up. I'm going to be using an impact. This is a job that can be done with a ratchet or a breaker bar and a socket. Alright, we'll remove the wheel and get it out of the way. So now that that's out of the way, we will be pulling out these clips here. So we'll be pulling these 8 clips off, and all you need is a screwdriver, flathead screwdriver, and or a panel pry tool. And then there's a 7mm right here. So 7mm here, and I think this is a T20. I think it's a T20 Torx here and here. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop those off.
Alright, so I'm gonna do that for 8 more times.
Alright, it looks like we're down to the 2 Torx bolts and the 7mm. I think I'm going to go ahead and take the 7mm off first. So just so you can see, maybe it's up in there. Alright, and then we got these 2 Torx bolts. Alright, so that should free this inner fender liner. Oh. So there's another bolt underneath here. It's going to be a 7mm, or at least I hope so. And it was. So we have 2 7mm and 2 T20 Torxes. This right here should be an 18mm if the information I found online was correct. So I'm going to go ahead and grab an 18 and see if it fits. Hey, it fits. Maybe we'll use a smaller impact. Well, there's one bolt out. So the lower shock bolts, there's a 18 on this side and then an 18 millimeter nut on this side. So we'll be using a wrench as well as the impact, and I've got plenty of room to use the impact, the big one, so I'm going to go ahead and use it. And then that shock should be ready to come out. Okay, so we got the top bolt out, we got the bottom bolt out. Now we just need to pull it down, compress it, and get it out of there. And there's some evidence of this shock leaking, so that's probably my biggest problem with the back end being soft. And like I said in the beginning of this video, or at least I think I did, there's two different types of designs for shocks. One's a single tube, or what they call a monotube, and a dual tube. And the monotube, which is what I bought, should be a little stiffer. But I can push this all the way in, no problem. And we're gonna see when I unspring the other shock, it's not gonna be near as easy to manipulate. So that being said, here's the new one, and if you saw the way this one came out, the bigger part is on top, so I'm going to put this toward the top. And then also, I've already turned it, but it was like this at the top, and then turned 90 from the top, so I got to make sure I turn it down at the bottom to make sure it fits where it's supposed to. But we're going to get the top bolt in and then cut this shipping support, because you'll see when I do that it's going to drop. It's just under tension right now. So I'm not tightening it yet. I'm gonna go ahead and release the tension on here and get this where I want it. And I'll bring you in so you can see how that all goes down. So hopefully this is just as fun for you as it is for me. Alright. Well, that wasn't bad. I was afraid it might pop. Alright, so now we just gotta get the bottom bolt lined up. So what I should have done is put a jack stand under the car. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let the jack down a little bit to get this hole lined up, and I'll leave the screwdriver in there so it doesn't go too far. So now we just got this top bolt to get tightened up, and then we can put the inner fender back in, and then I'll be moving on to the next side, but that's all there is to it. And I'll bring you down to that one just in case you didn't get a good view, but it goes right there. Looks like it fell right into place as well. Alright, so the rest of this is pretty straightforward. I'm just going to put the wheel back on, and then I'm going to jump over to the other side and do exactly what I showed you. So the tools required are a T25, so a 7mm socket, a T20 Torx, a panel tool, and an 18mm socket and ratchet. What I found out is the back side, what I thought was a nut back here is actually must be welded on, because I didn't actually need to use the wrench at all, unless the bolts just rested on. So worst case, you need an 18mm wrench on the back side, 18mm socket on the front, and 18mm for the top here. If you found this to be useful, helpful, please give it a like, put a comment down below. If there's any questions that you have regarding other things I've done to this, I'll put a link to the playlist for the Equinox, because I've done a few things to it. But yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. If you think I did a terrible job, drop that in the comments too. The worst thing is getting a dislike and having no idea why it was disliked. So if you dislike this video, please tell me why. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next video, and thanks for watching.